The FIA porpoising rules have been really expected ever since the governing body decided to intervene regarding this matter after the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. One of the main facilitators for these changes to happen was Mercedes, as the team struggled a lot with the phenomenon of aerodynamical porpoising and lost a lot of its pace compared to last season. However, what they had in mind wasn't implemented initially, as the FIA is implementing a measurement for the vertical oscillations as well as skids and planks, more precise measurement from the Belgian GP. If the car fails to comply with the amount of vertical oscillations or the porpoising, it would have to raise the ride height and therefore lose lap time. And what is more concerning for Mercedes are the 2023 rules, and if you want to find out why the team is already in trouble for the next season, stick around with us until the end of the video. Mercedes has very well said goodbye to their championship hopes in 2022, as they could fight with Ferrari for second place. According to reports, the team was already focused on the 2023 season, which is why they were lobbying hard for the rules to change for the next season when it comes to ride height. Toto Wolff said that the drivers are experiencing 6 to 7 Hz of frequency over a couple of seconds, which is very risky for the drivers' brains and the long-term health of the drivers. This is one of the reasons why the FIA decided to raise the ride height for an additional 15mm and raise the diffuser throat, along with applying more stringent flexibility tests. But why is this a problem for Mercedes? They dealt with the porpoising problem too much because they didn't understand it properly. Apart from them, Ferrari and Red Bull have managed to not just control it, but completely beat it, which is the case with the Austrian team. Now these changes can very well turn around and hit Mercedes in their heads, which is why you need to be careful what you wish for. Ferrari and Red Bull have cars that are working almost to perfection, if we take out the reliability of their engines that they've suffered with a couple of times this season. These changes may not affect Ferrari and Red Bull the way Mercedes hoped, and all of their hopes would go in vain. Another thing that Mercedes is hoping for is that the Belgian GP will highlight the legality, or more precisely the non-legality of the F175 and the RB18. According to them, both of the teams were able to circumvent the rules and pass the FIA tests when it comes to floor flexibility, more precisely plank wear. In the measure places, which are 3 points on the wooden plank located on the floor, Red Bull and Ferrari have passed the allowed flexibility of 2 meters. However, Mercedes believes that the other parts of the planks are worn down more, which is achieved by more flexible floors. If this is true, then Ferrari and Red Bull have managed to find a way to generate more downforce and yet end up being legal at the end of every race. But this is just an assumption and accusation from an enemy team, and according to Verstappen, Mercedes does have the most flexible car on the grid. If the accusations fail to be true, then Mercedes would be in huge trouble. The advantage that Red Bull and Ferrari have is a legal one, not gained in shady and circumventing ways. Then the team would have to do their homework heavily for the next season if they want to catch up with the top teams, since there is an engine freeze implementation program until the end of the 2025 season. Mercedes are in trouble because their porpoising has been triggered at much lower speeds compared to Ferrari, and the Italian team managed to rack up decent results even when their car was bouncing vividly more than the W13. Even with porpoising, we've seen Leclerc dominating in the first 3 races, racking up 2 wins and 1 second place in Jeddah. The deficit that Ferrari had to Red Bull was in the main straights, where the RB18 turned out to be a complete rocket launcher. Nevertheless, the Italian team struggles with reliability issues, and just on that card, Mercedes was able to rack up decent points and regular podium finishes. This is why they are just 30 points behind Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship, and Russell is 20 points away from Leclerc in the Drivers' Championship. Mercedes isn't happy with the regulations taking place in Belgium because if their car turns out to be porpoising as much as it did at the beginning of the season, they would have to raise the ride height. Why is this a problem? Because it was a solution from day one, but by doing so, the car is gaining additional drag and losing downforce, meaning it would lose lap time and lots of pace. Now that the downforce is mostly generated through the ground, also known as the ground effect, there needs to be a perfect balance between the ride height and the ground. Too high and the downforce is lost with additional drag gained. Too low, then the air stalls beneath the floor, causing the car to porpoise. What's even more worrying for the Brackley-based team is that they never attempted to solve the issue with engineering marvels, as Ferrari and Red Bull did. Instead, they used George Russell's position as the director of the Grand Prix Association and complained about the porpoising being a huge issue in the paddock. Binotto and Horner were fighting with Wolff constantly in the meetings, saying that this is a one-team problem and it shouldn't affect the whole technical directives just because Mercedes is struggling with it. Mercedes was very innovative when it came to their sidepods, as they literally went out with a no sidepod design in pre-testing in Bahrain. Back then, the opinion was divided between Russell and Hamilton and the experts on whether that is the problem for the car performing as it did. It seems like it was contributing to the issue, but not as much as other problems, such as the slowness of their engine. The edges of the car are very simple in design, and if you compare them to Ferrari and Red Bulls, you'll understand better why the British team is struggling a lot with this phenomenon. However, now that the 2023 regulative has finally been finalized, the team is ready to produce the car that, according to Wolff and Chauvelin, will be a championship contender. Chauvelin also said that there is a high possibility that the 2023 car will look very different compared to the 2022 one. When the ride height is enlarged, it means that the low pressure under that car that generates downforce will always increase. Therefore, the car would have to use vortex generation in order to achieve the best results. Why is this an issue for Mercedes? Well, because Red Bull are geniuses when it comes to the vortex productions. After all, they were the masters of a high-rate car, meaning that the more the car ride is raised, the more favored they'll be. Although the rules are different, the philosophy is very much the same. All you have to do is devise a mechanism that will generate these vortices, and you are good to go. One critical part of this issue is the floor edge towards the back of the car. What's even more troublesome for Mercedes is that Ferrari and Red Bull have already raised their floors in this area, therefore creating a tunnel within the front inlet connecting to the high-speed airflow, being forced around the rear tire contact path. The goal of this is to achieve consistency and control of the car, and keep high downforce levels while keeping the floor low enough so that the porpoising won't be triggered. As we've been able to see, chasing high downforce levels while riding the car too low to the ground can lead to different issues, such as the bottoming out phenomenon. With that being said, it's all to play for in the next season. Although Ferrari and Red Bull were reluctant about the rules and said that they are bought too late in the season, there is a high possibility that the rules will benefit them much more than they originally thought. What do you think will happen next with Mercedes in the 2023 season? Let us know in the comments below.